Hey everybody, this is Mickey G.
And I'm Rodney T.
Welcome to this edition of Old Fools Talking Old School. Rodney, I was watching a rerun of Sanford Son, and they pissed me off because Sanford Son used to come on. What station was that used to come on? I can't even remember. This the cable channel that used to come on, but now it's on Peacock. So it's a little bit different than it used to be. But I've watched reruns of Sanford Son for forever, and I guess as I gotten older, I just sort of watched them with a little bit more eye on cultural stuff and racial stuff and things like that. And I'm like, Sanford Son was not politically correct by any means.
No.
That stuff that they were saying on there wouldn't go over nowhere these days. I mean, using the N word big time, and Fred, he was talking about the neighbor Julio, him being Puerto Rican and stuff. And they had the Asian guy, the one that played in what was that Karate Kid? Yeah. He was on there. Yeah. He was on what's his name? Something Mora or something like that. I can't think of his name. Yeah. He was on there, and I was watching the other day, and Fred said something to him about, yeah, man, I bet you want some rice or something like that. And he just started laughing, and they were talking about different diseases that people might get. And Fred said, yeah, man, you probably gonna get yellow flu or something like that. I'm like, you couldn't say that kind of stuff these days.
Yeah, that's the different times, man. He was also sexist, boy. He was real sexist.
Yeah. And, he was. He was talking. One episode I was watching just the other day, he was talking to Julio, and Julio said he went down to Mexico to look for some stuff. Julio had a garbage business, not a garbage business, but a junk business right beside him. He said, yeah, I went down to Mexico looking for some stuff, and Fred said, okay, did you bring them wetbacks with you? I'm like, wait a minute. I'm like, he said, what? He said, yeah, I mean, them wetbacks you bring back with. I'm like, you couldn't say that stuff these days.
Man, no. Like I said, it's the time, man. Most minorities are made stuff aware, and the pushback on that, you can't do it. And see, back then, them censors was nothing but a bunch of old racist suckers sitting back there anyway. Half of the stuff was even scripted to be that way, because it was all okay, a ha ha ha, and that's what bothers me when I've heard some from the majority community talking about you can't laugh at yourself no more. Hell, y'all wasn't laughing at yourself, you were laughing at everybody else at their expense. So yeah, man, it's a good thing. I mean, even though Sanford Son served this purpose, because I religiously watched it. I loved old Fred. And because we still didn't have too many shows back then that we were the central character on it.
No. That was one of the few. And I was also paying attention to the body types from back then. Mm-hmm. And, it seemed like as we've gone through times and all, you see more healthier girls, that are accepted. Of course, back in them days, if you wasn't real thin, you weren't considered to be, pretty or accepted and things of that nature. And I said, that even transverse to black television, because if you go back and look, almost every female character that was on Sanford Son were either thin or and not big chested by any means. If you go back and you look at Esther, and you look at Fred's girlfriend,
I know you're talking with the little afro.
Yeah, if you go back and look, it's like, wow, they were all very, not saying very thin, but thinner, not as shapely as by any means as characters today, especially women. And I said, well, I think that was by design.
Oh yeah, of course it was. That was a standard set forth by the majority community because everything
Mhm.
they had on TV, she was real thin,
Right.
and we got when we start getting a little influence in there, then we start bringing in the body types that we like,
Right.
and now the other little girls they start packing on. They didn't mind going out on a date and eating a couple of hamburgers and shit because now they didn't adopted those values, boy. Because sometimes it look like it's still now, because they say everything go in 20-year cycles.
Right.
Look like the sisters and went back to trying to be thin again, and the white girls are getting thick.
Yeah, it seemed like that, and
Yeah,
just look at during that time when Botox was a big thing, and,
yeah,
and a lot of the white actresses were getting their lips enlarged and things. You wouldn't even thought nothing about that back in the late '60s, early '70s on TV. Could you imagine some of those female actresses back in those days getting Botox in their lips to make their lips bigger?
nope, sure
No.
couldn't.
So yeah, it's amazing how things change over the years and how the cultural acceptance of things
Oh
have
yeah,
changed over years. And just watching those old Sanford Son things, I said, yeah, it was prevalent even in the black actresses and things. Back in the day, they were like I say thinner women,
hmm,
not as full bodied by any means as they are today. And I say I think that was by design. That's what they felt. America, I guess, and at least the white America wanted to see.
oh,
That they would
that's
tend
exactly.
more to tune in if they looked like that.
Oh, of course, man. If you and then too that whole field was dominated by white men, so it was going to be stereotyped
Mm-hmm.
based on what they like. If you remember back in the 50s when they used to have all them movies like and them stars like Marilyn Monroe and Rosalind Russell and all them, they were full figured women.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They were thick, and then somewhere along the line when Twiggy came along from Britain over there, they thought, oh, you had to be real thin and all that. Then it went that way. It's just been round and round about, even when they do these supermodels. But hell, they get them right after puberty. Shit, uh, little young, real thin girls still look like little boys,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But now it's kind of uh, for our community, look like the women are trying to get thinner and back to the white girls trying to get thicker.
Yeah.
So
It's funny how those things
how it
seem to
works.
change through the years,
Yeah.
you know. But
Yeah, man.
I was just watching those and thinking like, yeah, it's a whole different time between the racist comments and things of that nature, and
Yeah.
and there was even debate as time went on when like the Cosbys came along and they were too
Hmm.
successful, a
Hmm.
doctor and a lawyer and those kind of things, that people were saying, well, that's not realistic.
Yeah, it's fictional.
Yeah, that if you go back to the days of like Sanford and Son and Good Times, that was more reminiscent and more cognizant of how black people really live. People, you
Hmm.
don't have doctors and lawyers and they pulled it off. I mean, they was able to pull it off, even though there was
Hmm.
some backlash about those kind of things. But if you think about those programs, Good Times and Sanford Son is especially, you'd say, well, that wasn't those weren't very encouraging shows.
Oh no.
When it comes down to say, a junk dealer and a family living a project. I mean, I'm not saying that they weren't, more in line with maybe, mainstream, African American. I'm not saying that, but it wasn't the program that you'd look at and say, that's what I want to be.
Right.
They weren't those kind of programs by any means.
Well, that was by design too. That was don't get too many aspirations there because that means you want a good job and you want
Mm-hmm.
to,
Mm-hmm.
and you want to do all these other things. Uh, I get I get ticked off till today. If you'll notice around every holiday around here, the programming they'll have like those old movies about brothers dealing drugs and going to jail and being snitches and all this other kind of stuff. I'm like, those things done played out, man. That's the stereotype that they put in there now. This past holiday, they had this show. I don't know if you remember, called Belly, where the dude Bokeem something is his name. He's a good actor. He's playing this drug dealer and all of this kind of stuff. They keep showing the one with Tupac and the dude where he ended up killing. They end up killing one another as they grew up friends. And I'm like, where is it? Nobody. I don't know nobody requesting this programming. But they want to keep it like it is. Well, just like your former president there, he said, you black folks ought to be glad because you're living in trash neighborhoods and you can't you're just not functioning. I'm like, well, he ain't been to a black neighborhood before, has he? I mean, we ain't all living in the 70s, and but he's so out of touch, but he's just ignorant anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But I'm just saying there's a lot of people in that community still think we living like when we was in the PJs. What is that cartoon that wasn't they had?
Yeah, the one with the animated.
Yeah.
I don't know what you call them. Yeah, I think it was. And that's sort of reminiscent of back during the days when they had all the black exploitation movies and things out. I think like anything else, there's always good and bad. I think from a good standpoint, it did give Black America somewhat of an identity. Maybe not the best identity that you would want, but there was something you could grab onto, and there was movies you could go to that that was about your people, and it made you laugh and that kind of thing. But once again, it was really exploiting a major problem in the Black community, with the drugs and things of that nature.
Oh yeah.
So you sort of go in those cycles, and I guess it comes down to what sells. If people don't show up at the theaters to see it, you just keep pushing it. But then again, that played out. I mean, just think of all the actors and actresses that were in those movies, and how many can you think of that went on to any type of superstardom? I can't think of me. I mean, I look at Ron O'Neal and people like that, played Superfly and stuff. I guess Richard Roundtree did pretty good at Shaft, but he was the heat. He wasn't like Superfly, who was the drug dealer kind of thing.
Right.
So I guess in some aspects, you sort of mortgage your soul just to have a few fleeting minutes of stardom and stuff. But for the most part, none of those people that sort of got their 15 minutes of fame in those movies and things really had long, successful career. They were sort of afterthoughts after a while.
Well, that's just been our MO for this. That's why I have no time for people who want to claim there ain't no systemic racism. Yeah. If you look at it, those Black exploitation movies, at least they were entertainment for something for us, because all the other movies wasn't for us. And those actors had an opportunity to earn a check and get some work, because other than that, they didn't. They would always have the one or two that they felt was acceptable, and they got all the movies. And so it was just a way for them to get it. You never saw like Cleopatra Jones. You never saw the Fine Sisters anywhere, unless you went there. And it was I know the few times that if I see one that I hadn't seen in a long time, I might watch it. Then I'll see a white actor in there who eventually went on to be a headline dude because he's white. But he was just a bit part player in this one. They've always done that. I mean, look at Living Color. Out of all those talented people they had on there, what's his name was the only one. The white dude is the only one that went on to be a big superstar.
Yeah, Jim Carrey.
You know, and again, he was a bit part. It wasn't Louis Anderson, but there was another white dude that was heavy, and he went on to do pretty good in the comic thing because of those black comic shows used to come on Friday nights and all that. But some of the brothers did. But so it's always been like that, and then we have always had to bootleg off of what's going on to get our version out there. You know, you look at well, even to now, you can't have 3 brothers on there, or 2 brothers and a sister, or 2 sisters and a brother. That's a headlining movie maker. It's only gonna be one, and then they gonna pit against each other. You know, when they fell in love with Will Smith, he was the man, the $20 million man. Then all of a sudden, they all fell in love with Idris Elba. Now they can't coexist. They gotta be competing against each other. You know, it can never be, oh, we don't let one of y'all come in there, but we ain't finna let 2 of y'all. You know, back in the day, it was Sammy Davis Jr. You know, but it wasn't nobody else. Sammy Davis Jr. got all the movies, you know, because he was that acceptable brother.
Yeah, he got in with the right people.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's always been an obstacle, and we've had to, just like they belittle these dudes. I'm not saying I condone what they do, but you don't give a person an opportunity. Well, he's going to eke it out. Hence the drug business or the black market business, or, you know, a lot of them like to think that they are morally superior to us because sometimes we have to do things just to survive. Well, hell, your ass do them, and you got all the breaks. You know, so it's just one of those things. I don't look down on nobody, but I don't condone some of the stuff, and especially just like even our youngsters right now killing each other over some profit that don't neither one of you ignorant suckers own. Or this is my, you know, what is it, territorial? This is my, you know, you don't even have an address.
But it's my turf.
But it's my turf. You know, the nearest thing you can come up with an address is your mama's name, your mama house. But you fighting over this territory. I'm like, man, give me a break. But you know, that's what a lot of them have. I ain't gonna say they've been forced to do it, but that's the choices that they have.
Yeah. When you don't have a lot of options, sometimes you just do what the neighborhood's doing.
Yeah,
you know, that happens a lot. You mentioned about folks that were in some of those older, sitcoms and things. There was actually an episode of Good Times that had Jay Leno in it. Like you say, he was like an extra. He was sitting. I think JJ and the girl, I think they thought she was pregnant, if I remember correctly. So they went to the clinic, and he was just one of the people sitting in a chair in the clinic. You know, he had a speaking part. He said, I think they sat beside him, and he made some comment. Maybe that was it. Nothing spectacular at all. And look where he went. I mean,
exactly.
He went from that kind of role model to having 75 million cars, I guess, in that warehouse he got out there.
I'm telling you.
So you never know. You know, I say I know the road is different from when it comes to Hollywood and things of that nature. It's not an even road by any means, and sometimes we've sort of been our own worst enemies and things. But sometimes you got to do what you got to do to survive.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's why I was a little disappointed when Spike Lee made that comment about boy, it's terrible when you get old. Your mind. Tyler Perry.
Yeah.
He made that comment about Tyler Perry when he released one of his Medea movies. And he said something like, "Well, I thought we were through making movies about black people being."
Buffoonery.
Something, yeah, comments like that. And I'm like, another situation where, we can't support each other. We don't talk about each other. Then I said, oh, by the way, Spike, do you remember School Days? And was it
She gotta have it.
And that other one was it. Not Caller 6, but something like that call service, thing.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, sometimes you gotta be careful throwing stones,
Oh, big time. And see, we get caught up in that old dumb crap because the bottom line is there's room for it all.
Yeah.
You don't hear the white community talking about this guy who, like Steve Martin, and the silly stuff that he does versus whoever they consider a serious actor. But we got to be pitted against one another because
Mm-hmm.
we can't. I mean, when when uh, when he said that about Tyler Perry, I lost a lot of respect for him, and I'll admit to you, I wasn't a Tyler Perry fan,
Mm-hmm.
and but I am now for the fact of what he was doing was good stuff. Plus the man that he is, that I mean, his charitable stuff.
Right,
Uh,
right.
but we had gotten into that point, and we do it to ourselves, that every time they made a movie, it had to be some historical value or something they're teaching us. Well, there's more to life than all of that, and half of that stuff you can go out and find out on your own. And then on top of that, you take that what is it, that creative licensing to ad lib part of the real truth of the movie to make it interesting.
Right, right.
Whereas you go to a history book and then you can read it for what it was. So I resent the fact that most black people always want to talk about, act like you got to be giving them some information. Get up off your rear end and go get a book and read for yourself. Since when do we need a movie to tell us history? I mean, I like them. It's good to have them, but that ain't
Mm-hmm.
your sole information avenue there to learn something about your past. And that's what Spike had gotten into, because he made a few serious movies with Malcolm X and a few other things. Good movies, good information, but every movie ain't got to be about that for our community. So I'm all for people doing any kind of thing. And just think about it. Years before that, Flip Wilson was doing it,
Yeah.
and
And he took a lot of flack
took a lot of
because
flack
of
for
the
wearing
role,
dresses.
right, and the character that he was playing.
Yeah. Yep. And then no matter what we do, sometimes we'll support anything. Oh, he don't hate on him. He's just making his bag, and all that. But he's doing some old dumb crap. These people were just making you laugh. That was their hustle, because boy, did we need to have a laugh.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, man, a lot of time we just need to get up off our high horse and stop critiquing everything. Now, something bad, yeah, you got a right to say something, but Tyler Perry, you know, uh, like I said, I didn't really, but he was doing musicals and stuff then. I wasn't into that. He started doing movies. Like, okay, I can kind of see that. But then he started making money and started looking out for the greater good. It wasn't just about him. I'm a big fan of his now.
Yeah, and I think a lot of his is just the fact that he was always mindful of where he came from. I mean, the
That's
brother
right.
was sleeping in his own car at one time, trying to
Yeah.
live this dream that he had. And there's a lot that don't have that kind of perseverance by any means,
Exactly.
And I'm just like you. I mean, I can remember when the Tyler Perry plays were coming out. They'd come to Nashville and stuff, and I'm like, yeah, okay. But like you say, he still kept with it. He started getting into the movies, started doing his own things. And then when he got to a point to where he knew he was safe, that he could do some things that probably he wouldn't have done earlier on in his career, he started making comedy. He started making, movies with social themes, and he started being more outward, as far as talking about social issues and things of that nature. And sometimes you got to do that.
Oh, most of the time.
You can have your ideas on things, whether it's politics, religion, or whatever it may be. But if you ain't got no kind of standing, ain't gonna be a whole lot of people looking at you.
That's right. You can be nullified real quick.
Yeah, and I think we were talking earlier about Brian Flores and the lawsuit that he's filed.
Mm-hmm.
From his comments, he said he may never get another head coaching job. But I think he realizes he's in a position where he'll be okay.
Oh, exactly.
He'll be okay. So I think he's, I don't know all the ins and outs of what's going on, but I think he feels like it's something that needs to be said. And I even say the same thing about, even though he's from not my hometown, I still call him my homeboy, but David Culley at Houston. I think he was in a no-win situation.
That was a setup.
I don't, like I say, I wasn't sitting there in no boardrooms and when they hired him and stuff. But I'm like, come on now. 1 year with the worst team in football and your quarterback, your starting quarterback ain't even playing.
Yep.
And you're going to, I feel the same way about him. I think he was set up to just get him through the year, and then they let him go. Now, could they have told him that? I don't know.
Right.
I mean, yeah, it could have been a thing where he said, yeah, I just want to be a head coach. If it's just for a year, I'll take it. I don't know that. But I just don't. I don't think he had an opportunity to show what he could do, and I think the team would be better next year.
Oh hell yeah! Especially if he gets some players, but missing that quarterback, That was the one thing. Definitely that let the team down. But now David Cutler, like you said, he's got the merit and probably the information to get on that lawsuit, because I'd go to the bank saying, yeah, they didn't tell him that. They just exploited him because they gave him a 3-year contract.
Mm-hmm.
If you only gonna keep him for a year, why would you give him a 3-year contract? But that was just to fool him, because if a guy with his standing, because he was known as a great assistant coach, if a guy with his standing and you bring him in and say, well, we're gonna let you coach 1 year, I don't think he would have took that job. I'd stay where I am.
Yeah.
I have more security than that. But like I always say, these billionaires that owns these teams, they didn't get to be billionaires by being those saints. They are crooks. And whatever it takes, because it don't take much to sway public opinion. Just like now, they're sitting there. Every time I hear this dude talk about, well, I've worked with that owner and he's a stand-up guy. That's what they always say. Just like when they get accused of being racist. Oh, he doesn't have a racist bone in his body. Well, of course not to you.
Mm-hmm.
Why would he show any kind of racism when you're white and he is white? But that's how they nullify us. And then we got plenty of us who will agree with him. That dude, that old sucker, he used to manipulating and getting his way. I'll pay you $100,000 to lose, and then turn around and fire him.
Mm-hmm.
Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to pay you to give me the ammunition to justify me firing you.
Basically, yeah. I mean, it's almost a no-win situation.
It's a no-win situation.
Yeah. If you do lose, then yeah, I've got all the justification to fire you because you lost. You didn't bring me a winning team.
Yeah.
And then like you say, if they start winning some games and they it's supposedly because they lost some higher rated draft choices, then it's like, okay, you didn't do what I said, I'm gonna fire you anyway. So I mean, it's a no-lose situation.
That's right. And Hugh Jackson has come out and said that Cleveland did the same thing to him. And then this brother, I can't think of his name already. He played wide receiver for Cleveland. Called the man the B word because he spoke up. I said, see, that's the problem. They done tapped you on your head and told you a good boy, and now you taking up for him.
Mm-hmm.
That ain't the first time that's happened. It ain't gonna be the last time that it happened. I mean, the thing of it is, see, a lot of time these folks out here haven't had the experience of being in mid-level or upper management. You and I have been there, and we know the shit that goes on. The shadiness, it's even not only to people of color, but they've done that to white people. Yep. to get what they want, to get the narrative out there like they want it, to make them look on the stand up when they're really the ones that's trying to get you out of that.
Yeah. Like you say, a lot of times it's not what you know, it's who you know.
It's who you know.
Hey, Rodney, we're going to let the folks go again today. Hey, everybody, thank you all for listening today to another episode of Old Fools Talking Old School. This is Mickey G.
I'm Rodney T.
Peace.